Next on BYUSN, the NFL draft done and delivered for BYU football. Which former Cougar found the best National Football League fit?
And Kody Epps jumps into the transfer portal, what BYU now needs at receiver.
Welcome to BYU Sports Nation, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. It is Monday, May 1st. I am Spencer Linton alongside longtime NSYNC fan, Jarom Jordan.
It's gonna be May. It's the best. Like, you're gonna see it on your Instagram today from Justin Timberlake, which is the best. And May 1st means we are how far away from BYU in the Big 12?
Countdown to the Big 12.
2 months away.
Still 2 months. Feels like BYU's just in. You know, July 1st is going to be cool because BYU's officially in, but emotionally, we've been in for a while.
Yes.
Since September 10th, 2021.
We're still waiting for that set of schedules from the sports that will compete in the Big 12 first.
Yeah,
notably soccer and women's volleyball and cross country.
I've got soccer. I'm waiting until they put it out and I can tell you. For a certain amount, maybe I'll tell you if you did, Venmo me. But like, still waiting for volleyball and whatnot. So yeah, we'll see. We're excited, man.
Should say yes. We have some details. We just
got some details. Yeah, I can't always give it to you. Sorry. On today's show, we evaluate BYU's 3 NFL draft picks and 4 free agent fits. Kody Epps is transferring. David Nixon on both. And hey, Lauren Gustin returns. That's great. Here are today's headlines.
Beginning with your NFL draft recap. Blake Freeland, the first BYU Cougar selected in the NFL draft in the 4th round, 106th pick overall to the Indianapolis Colts. Jaren Hall, the next to have his name called to the Minnesota Vikings in the 5th round, number 164 overall. And not long after that, late in the 5th round, Puka Nacua to the Los Angeles Rams as one of their new wide receivers. Much more on how all 3 of these men fit into their new teams in just a bit.
4 Cougars signed free agent deals. Chris Brooks to the Dolphins. Caleb Hayes to the Jaguars. Not to be confused with the Jaguars.
Duval!
D'Angelo Mandel to the Cowboys. And Harris LaChance also to the Colts.
Okay.
With Blake Freeland. So they like them some Cougs.
Guys look good in blue and white. Let's keep the thing going. The shocker of the weekend. Kody Epps, BYU wide receiver, enters the transfer portal. It happened yesterday, which happened to be the last day the portal was open to do so. Epps, last season, fought off some injuries, still put together 39 catches, 459 yards, and 6 touchdowns. It's a shocker because of how bought in Epps was on social media, it seemed, over the past few months. What has changed, and how does it impact BYU's wide receiver core?
Yeah, you can enter the portal anytime, but yesterday marked the you have no penalty if you haven't already transferred before situation. So the good news is no one else entered, so basically it seems like BYU's keeping what they have. Lauren Gustin returns to BYU. Friday she posted on Instagram, "I'm here to stay. BYU has a special place in my heart. I'm excited to go to battle with my teammates and coaches as we enter the Big 12 next season." Yeah. Lauren Gustin returns, which was a surprise.
Welcome back, Lauren. BYU women's softball sweeps San Diego on Friday. Haley Morrow with a grand slam to highlight a doubleheader sweep under those Friday night lights. On Saturday, the Cougars finishing thing off with a mercy rule 8-0 win in 5 innings. Hunter Ava hit her 11th home run of the season. Violet Zavodnik had 2 triples. 2 triples in the same
That's
game.
How she rolls, man.
Woo! It doesn't get much easier for BYU softball. They host the 2nd-ranked team in the country, UCLA, who just beat up on Utah in Salt Lake City.
Well, we all love that.
3 Eastern, 1 Mountain, live on the BYU TV app.
Hey, let's go. 8 clap that. Baseball drops Friday and Saturday's games to Portland, 12-10, and then 20-28, falling to 18 and 23 overall, 8-10 in league play. Cougars play at UC San Diego tomorrow at 9 Eastern on the BYU radio app. Work to do for the boys.
BYU men's golf. They utilized the Sports Nation karma, specifically Carson Lundell, Zach Jones. They win the West Coast Conference Championship.
Upset Pepperdine, baby, ranked 6th.
They had a big lead going into the final day, then watched that lead disappear, and then rallied to win. I love it.
Nice work.
3rd conference championship in the WCC. Zach Jones finished as the medalist, top individual performer, 9 under, the first BYU golfer to medal at the WCC title since 2017.
Very nice. Nice job, guys. Track and field competing in the Desert Heat Classic in Tucson, Arizona over the weekend. 12th ranked women's 4x100 team set a school record, 44.57, 12 total personal records, PRs on the team. The 8th ranked men featured top 3 relays in the 4x400 and 4x100 with 6 PRs.
About some National Women's Soccer League news. Michaela Clough and Ashley Hatch both score goals. Clough, her goal in a 3-1 win against the San Diego Wave FC. First goal of the season, a header. Hatch scored a goal in a 1-1 draw against the Chicago Red Stars on a penalty kick, her 4th goal of the season. All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending. What's Trending presented by BYU Food to Go, the MVP of your next event. We just gave you the weekend NFL draft recap. 3 BYU Cougars officially selected, had their names called. The other 4, well, they had their agents go to work, and they believe they have put themselves in the best positions as undrafted free agents, 7 total. We'll start with the 3 draft picks, Jarom.
Yep.
How do you like the fits of BYU's 3 draft picks? Blake Freeland to the Colts, Jaren Hall to the Vikings, and Puka Nacua to the LA Rams.
Well, let's start with you calling your shot on Friday with the Vikings. This is what it sounded like.
For Jaren Hall, and this is not a surprise if you've been following along with the show, I know the Minnesota Vikings are really impressed with him. They liked his attitude, his maturity. They have Kirk Cousins. I feel like Jaren Hall mentality and his even-keel nature is a lot like Kirk Cousins.
You like that?
I do like that. You like that? 158th pick overall, 5th round, Jaren Hall to the Vikings.
You almost nailed it to the pick, which was pretty exciting.
At one point, they had the 158th overall pick, but then a billion trades happened, and they slide down to 164.
It was the most trades in the modern era of the draft. Which, by the way, he was the 12th quarterback taken in the first 5 rounds, which was also a record in the modern era of the draft. So pretty cool thing there. Okay, yes, Vikings. Let's break it down now that he's there. And you mentioned the Kirk Cousins things. Kirk Cousins, let's get specific. He is a free agent after this year.
1 season guaranteed.
After this year.
Yep.
Nick Mullins is the backup. Mullins has played 24 games over the last 4 years, mostly with the Niners, 19 of them, 1 with the Browns, 4 with the Vikings, in some mop-up duty. So Jaren Hall comes into a situation where the guy could be out after a year. Granted, they're gonna either sign someone big coming in or keep going with Kirk, you'd think. But Jaren has a shot, yet there's sort of a veteran backup there, a guy who has played on a couple of different teams. So I think it's a nice scenario. Let's see what Jaren can do. And our hope for Jaren isn't that he starts immediately or even soon. It's that he can be on a team for a couple of years with the Vikings and then perhaps get an opportunity. And I would love, like, if he was just a veteran backup that was in the league for 6+ years, I'd be happy with that. Like, BYU needs, we don't need like a starter at every major position. I would love some longevity in that quarterback. I'd love to have a couple of guys in the league. Zach, be a backup, obviously, with the Jets. Jaren, be on the 53 week to week with the Vikings. Now we're talking. That'd be great. So I do like the fit a lot, given the situation with Cousins and now Mullen.
Absolutely. I've spoken ad nauseum about the fit of Jaren Hall in Minnesota, and I just like Kirk Cousins because I don't think there's a less pretentious quarterback in the league anywhere. He's all about just like the work, and he's a family guy, and he's not a dude that really like seeks out the limelight and is going to cause problems. He's the farthest thing from a problem in his locker room. Everybody loves him. And so I just like that because I feel like I say all the same things about Jaren, like quiet confidence, right? I feel like when I'm talking about Kirk Cousins, that is Jaren Hall. And so I like the personality fit there and that he has an opportunity to learn from a guy who's been around for a long time, has played a lot of games, a lot of meaningful games. But, yeah, to your point, they only have 1 more year with Cousins as the designated quarterback, so maybe Kirk Cousins isn't in Minnesota when Jaren Hall hits year 2 and they go out and get somebody else. But great, then give Jaren Hall an opportunity to sit behind potentially somebody else, which I believe would be a veteran if they get rid of Kirk Cousins. And maybe in year 3 or year 4 he becomes Jordan Love and takes over the program when they ship out whoever, like the Green Bay Packers did with Aaron Rodgers.
It'd be nice. Love was a first rounder, so they're expecting him to be the next guy, right? They're not expecting Jaren Hall per se to be the next guy. The real battle is with Nick Mullins. It's not with Kirk Cousins,
sure.
right? It's to get in position where he could maybe become the backup. Granted, Nick is an experienced backup. He's played in 24 games in the NFL already.
Yeah, I could not have handpicked. Literally, I did pick. I picked it. I hoped for it, and it happened.
Yeah, it was the second best team he could have gone to, really. It was pretty good.
Your Seahawks had plenty of opportunities.
Well, in hindsight, they didn't even, pick a quarterback. At all. They have Drew Lock as a backup on a one-year deal. They don't need
clearly that's their
next
future.
Year.
Okay. Yeah. Blake Freeland to the Indianapolis Colts. He was, as I mentioned, the first BYU Cougar drafted, 106th overall.
Yep.
He went a little bit later than I thought he would. I thought he would go by the end of the third round.
Yeah.
But it was early fourth round.
Yep.
The thing I love most about Freeland to the Colts is he'll have an opportunity to play right away, or the possibility of being a factor right away. It's kind of like Brady Christensen, same type of deal. When he went to Carolina, was a projected second-string guy, and then worked his way into a starting position. I feel like Blake's
moved positions.
Yes.
So who knows what Blake's going to do? Maybe he is a guard at some point.
I feel like it's in a similar situation.
Yeah, at left tackle specifically, Bernard Raymond was a third-round pick last year who started 11 games for the Colts. So there's a guy that they think they've got moving forward, right? But we'll see. Injuries and ineptitude can change things, right? Who knows if they want him at guard at right tackle? He's not going to be the guy because Braden Smith is on year 3 of a 4-year deal worth $72 million. They've invested a lot of money in Braden Smith at right tackle specifically. But the Colts have always had good offensive lines. They got Jonathan Taylor. They build around the run game typically. He's going to be there with Anthony Richardson, which is exciting.
A bunch of guys to protect a rookie quarterback.
Absolutely, and we'll see how quickly they go play that card. But yeah, there's a chance there for Blake to get some real playing time, and maybe they move him to guard, or maybe I wouldn't be opposed to him being a backup for a whole year, and then maybe he gets a chance next year, or maybe there's an injury in week 10 or something. Yeah, I'm excited for Blake. He's one of the most athletic, if not the most athletic offensive lineman that's ever come from BYU.
For sure.
Killed the combine. It's just going to be whether he can thrive at the next level.
Yeah. You think he could handle other positions on the offensive line? Absolutely. Like, if you can handle the left tackle spot, you can play guard position, right?
Yeah.
Just depends on what they need from him and what they want to do.
As offensive line experts, we know. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what do you think of Puka to the Rams?
I love it. I love
Fifth round.
I love that they drafted him late in the 5th round. This was the surprise pick for me because I thought Puka was going to go in the 6th or the 7th round.
It was a compensatory pick, meaning it was almost the 6th.
Yes.
Like those were extra picks based on different criteria, right? But he goes 5th round.
I love the fit.
Like how many picks in the 5th round? There were 42 picks. There were 32 teams.
Yeah, the whole compensatory situation is
always a weird technicality.
It's very confusing.
Yeah. Okay.
But I love that it only took 13 picks after Jaren Hall to have Puka Nacua fly off the board. And I love the offensive mind and scenario that he's going into with Sean McVay leading things and Matthew Stafford throwing Puka Nacua the ball. The Rams social media account said it best. The playmaker, Puka making plays. Like, they clearly are in love with his skill set and his potential. I feel like I've said it on Friday, I feel like he's one of the gems of the draft because you're not really sure about his durability, but when he is healthy, my gosh, he just makes unbelievable plays. He does something special every game he's in.
If he was healthy, if he was fully healthy, no injuries last year, I think he could have gone as high as the 3rd round. I really do.
Day 2 guy.
I think he's that kind of player. And now he goes to the Rams, who had a real down year. They have something last year. They have something to prove this year. Obviously won the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and they kind of mailed it in last year. But you win the Super Bowl, it was worth it. There's a chance for him to play a lot.
Yes.
You've got Cooper Kupp and a bunch of whatevers. Okay, Van Jefferson didn't have 30 catches or 400 yards. Under that, Ben Skoranek had 39 for 376, no touchdowns. Tutu Atwell, 18 for 298. Like. Can Puka Nacua not be one of the top 4 or 5 receivers on the Rams?
He absolutely can. That's why I love it. I love it.
This is a great situation for him. Hopefully that ankle and that hamstring stay healthy because Puka Nacua is an NFL receiver. And if Puka Nacua, I've said it before, but I'll say it again, if he had been at BYU the whole time and healthy, we may say he's the best receiver in BYU history. He may be the most athletic player in BYU history to go, and now he's in the NFL. Now he's got a real chance to prove himself. And Nacua's have at least touched the NFL, right? Kai and Samson. Now Puka is going to be the best of the brothers, and we'll see it in the league.
And there's another Nacua still out there. Another younger brother. We'll see what happens there. Hey, I'm excited to watch him line it up and help out. Cooper Kupp needs some help, man. Cooper Kupp needs help.
Cooper's a baller, and as a Seahawks fan, I'm gonna obviously be watching every snap of 2 games a year for Puka on the other side. So that'd be fun.
You'll root for Puka when he doesn't play the Seahawks?
Yes. Well, even when he plays the Seahawks. I just want the Seahawks to win the game. I want Puka to go for 10 catches, 200 yards, 4 touchdowns, but lose by 1.
Well, and it's interesting that we're discussing wide receivers and BYU wide receivers because Puka wasn't the only wide receiver news over the weekend.
Yeah, there's a situation here where last night The Athletic broke the news. The receiver Kody Epps entered the transfer portal. Epps was expected to be one of BYU's top weapons after a 39-catch, 459-yard, 6 touchdown sophomore season. What's your reaction to the news?
I was stunned. I really was. At first I thought, no way. And then I looked at the initial report that came out, and I was like, okay, this dude has, credibility.
It was Max Olson of
The
Athletic.
He's a national reporter.
He's legit.
I saw somebody else before Max Olson.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. So I thought, what in the world? This can't be right. And then dug into it, start sending out text messages, and sure enough, get the responses back that say, yeah, it's legitimate. He's in the transfer portal. And then my mind went to what happened over the past 6 weeks, because it was just 6 weeks ago when we saw Kody Epps posting about, called to the LES mission. I believe that was on March 2nd, and a spinoff of LDS culture. And then he goes to General Conference and takes pictures and is all bought in. And so I think we all felt good because we were worried. He's a hot commodity. We know what he brings. Bryce Young's top receiver in high school, who just went #1 overall as a quarterback, and thought, oh, man, if we just get through this offseason, then we'll be okay. We thought Kody was in.
Literally needed to get through 1 more day.
The final day that you can do it without penalty, and he ends up in the transfer portal. So, that would lead me to believe that there is some life-changing money involved somewhere.
Stephen Ashworth is it happens.
Yes.
Right?
Name, image, likeness. Yeah. Go Blue Jays, Stephen Ashworth. It stinks. The transfer portal, we've said it 1 billion times, it giveth and it taketh away. This is one we just thought there was no chance, no even inkling that Kody Epps was going to leave. But now I'm like, okay, he must have gotten generational or life-changing money here in an NIL deal.
He had to.
And I hate to go there, but
why?
We're in the day and age where tampering exists, Jarom, and people float out ideas and hey, and it's all done discreetly, and it just, we can give you this much money. I know you think you got a good situation here. We double this. Come here and be a star and play in said conference or whatever. There's just tampering and NIL. It just feels like it's got fingerprints of those two things all over this.
So people, and I had the same reaction as you, so people know BYU did make multiple efforts and did increase his NIL money in the offseason. I'm not talking, a week or 2 ago. I'm talking months ago.
They showed him the love.
To keep him here this year. Notably a local credit union and, of course, the Royal Blue Collective did their job, which was try and keep him. And if I'm Kody, I look at Lauren Gustin and I go, wait, was there any leveraging there to perhaps get more to stay? And how much of a business is this in that regard? Perhaps that happened, and either it wasn't enough or it was no, see ya. Kody Epps is a fantastic person. I really like him. And I bought into everything he said. And I still believe that he feels that way about BYU. But there is a certain price to be paid that can change that.
This is the day and age we live in now. There's always a price.
Think about what you value the most as it pertains to, especially around here, perhaps non-religious things, right? How much would you be paid if offered to change a certain situation, right? Everyone's got a price. And that price apparently was met for Kody Epps, which is disappointing. I think he could have been a future NFL receiver from BYU. He certainly could still be an NFL receiver. And he was a huge piece of what was moving forward. I think he was one of the top 6 players going into this fall for BYU. And a real bummer. Real bummer. He had talked a lot about being at BYU, being a member of a different faith, of being black at BYU. And it was this is a great fit and tool for BYU to use with other receivers in the future. And unfortunately, He must have had six-figure NIL money from somewhere sway him in a way that he could not turn down.
Sure. I mean, imagine
Which is a bummer.
Imagine being a college kid. And you brought up Stephen Ashworth, and the number out there that was reported by several accounts on Twitter was like around $400,000. Like,
if they can actually give him that money,
how do you say no?
How do you say no to that?
How do you say no to that?
Yeah.
This is the day and age we live in.
Yeah.
Like, loyalty can be bought.
And let's quickly say this. Well, why can't the Royal Blue Collective come to There's a point where that's just too much, okay? And not real. And at BYU, there's a certain amount of reality we got to live in with different situations.
Yeah, and
financially and otherwise.
There's an ideal for the staff. Clearly, from what we've heard, is
everybody's losing people to the portal too for these reasons.
How much do you want to be here? Look at Keaton Slovis. Keaton Slovis turned down that type of money because he wanted to be here. Yeah. And that's like the Kalani guy, right? That is the ideal Kalani guy that he's looking for. Yeah. They're unique. They're hard to find.
It's a bummer, but don't fret. BYU's got some real good, opportunities here with people in the portal. Don't you worry.
Our question of the day: what was the bigger BYU story from this weekend? Was it the NFL draft and 3 BYU Cougars selected, or was it what happened on Sunday Shocker? Kody Epps entering the transfer portal. At N_Crowley19 on Twitter says, it has to be Kody Epps. What does Joker say in The Dark Knight? When things don't go to plan, everyone loses their mind. The draftees were part of the plan. Kody was not.
Great point. Amazingly, it overtook the draft last night. I would say it's Kody Epps entering the portal.
Wild.
Crazy.
All right. Hashtag BYUSN, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to join the conversation.
Tune in this afternoon for a huge BYU softball game. Number 2 UCLA in town to take on the Cougs. 3 Eastern on the BYU TV app.
Up next, former BYU and NFL linebacker David Nixon tells us what he thinks about BYU's draft class. Where does he think the perfect fit is of those 3 guys? And his thoughts on Kody Epps and the transfer portal. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by BYU Food to Go, the MVP of your next event.
Trio Orem Senior Living believes in empowering seniors to live life to the fullest. We help eliminate stress out of daily life when you live at Trio. Less time focusing on housework means you can socialize at one of our many events, with safety in mind, of course. And did we mention our spacious apartments with modern amenities? Learn more about setting up a private tour at trioorem.com.
If you're looking to build your brand awareness and increase market share as BYU moves into the Big 12, this is the place, BYU Athletics. We can provide the tools you need to make sure your company is seen and heard. BYU Athletics is where you can align your products and services with loyal fans that cheer for our Cougars. And they can also help your business win. Learn more about what a partnership with BYU Athletics and your company will look like. After all, this is the place. Email sponsorship at byu.edu today.
Hammond has had scores of chances to kill the princess. What is he waiting for?
The villain means to return to Rogamore of old.
The scrying pool allows your soul to travel through time to your own body in the past.
But if we enter the scrying pool...
we cannot come back. I am sorry, Princess.
What are you saying? That
we must say goodbye.
Of Kody Epps, left side, makes the catch. Step back inside for the touchdown. Kody Epps scores. 3rd time in as many weeks. Touchdown, Kody Epps. They throw to the jet, and it's a touchdown to Kody Epps.
The door remains open for Kody Epps if he decides to change course and come back to BYU.
It certainly does, but from those I've talked to, it sounds like he's gone.
Yeah. The only hope I have is that it was the same scenario that I was hearing with Lauren Gustin, and she ended up back at BYU. It's different. I know. It's different.
Yeah, I'd be surprised at this point.
Hope is all I have to go off of right now, Jarom.
That's Pacific in the West Coast Conference tournament every year. That's not a good thing.
I know.
It's not a good thing.
We are live in Studio B with your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play alongside Jarom Jordan. I'm Spencer Linton. It's gonna be May 1st.
Yes, it is.
Yes, indeed. Joining us now is another NSYNC fan. He's also a former BYU NFL linebacker, David Nixon. David, tell me you're a Justin Timberlake and NSYNC fan, especially on May 1st.
Tell me why. Backstreet Boys?
I mean, maybe like 20 years ago. I don't like to admit it, but yes, I liked their music back then.
We all liked it when we were alone. Back in the, you know what I mean?
I liked it publicly. I went to the concert.
Yeah.
I'm not no shame.
Yeah, I went to a Backstreet Boys concert last summer. It's like one of the best I've ever been to. It was so fun.
Spencer for sure had his bleached tips going
100%.
When he went to the concert.
100%.
He was rocking them for sure.
Yes. Yes. In a stadium of 35,000 where 95% were high school girls and I was a high school boy. Come on.
Listen,
Come on.
when you're in high school, that is a gold mine.
All right, David. We're trying to figure out which of the BYU players found their gold mine in the NFL. Of the 3 draft picks, which do you like the best or as the best fit to their team?
Man, when you start to dive into it, we start off with Jaren, right? Kind of the quarterback. They always get all the news on them. I like this match with Kevin O'Connell, the head coach for the Vikings. Kevin O'Connell, obviously former San Diego State quarterback. I played against him back in my day. And something that's interesting about Kevin O'Connell, if you go back and look at his career, in 2007, he led his team in rushing yards. I think he's ended up second in San Diego State history for most rushing touchdowns. So this is a guy who obviously had a great arm, but he likes to get out of the pocket and run the ball a little bit. Obviously, he doesn't currently have that with his quarterback situation, so he's looking for maybe to switch it up and bring in a guy like Jaren Hall. Because you look around the league and you see what the league is doing with mobile quarterbacks. You look at what happened with Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, et cetera. I think he looks at Jaren Hall as maybe a little bit of a project that he could switch things up in his offense and go back to his own personal roots, which is, him being a rushing type quarterback. So I like that fit. I like Puka Nacua, honestly. You look at the Rams and you look at their wide receiver core. Obviously, Cooper Kupp, big-time receiver, big-time contract. But besides that, there's not too many notable names on there that you're going to be fighting against that are big money. And that's typically what you look at. You look at guys that are, have long contracts with big money where the GM and the ownership has to play that player because they paid him so much money. But in this situation, I think he has a chance to fit right in and maybe take a starting spot. And that's the other thing, too, with all these different positions. There's so much to be played out from here. Injuries happen all the time. And next thing you know, you move your way up on that depth chart. It comes season time, there's some attrition, as we know, in football. And next thing you know, you're thrust in the spotlight. You make a name for yourself, a la Austin Collie. You go out there and ball out, and next thing you know, you're into a starting role and get a big contract a couple of years later. So I like his situation. Obviously, Freeland, and LaChance, both to Indianapolis. We'll see how that all plays out. We'll see what happens with D'Angelo Mendel. I was talking to his agent over the weekend, who was my agent at the time, and we were texting back and forth, and they're really excited about his opportunities with the Cowboys. They felt like the Cowboys came after him pretty hard. They wanted him pretty bad. And so they're excited to see how that all plays out. So we'll see. I mean, listen, we have was it 7 guys that made spots on a team, but Peyton Wilgar's another guy who's getting invited to some mini camps. So there's going to be some opportunities there. Hopefully somebody eventually signs him. So they're definitely not done. The dust is not settled quite yet, but so far, great haul for BYU.
Who's most likely to be the Taysom Hill, Daniel Sorensen, Michael Davis, undrafted free agent that sticks in the NFL, in your opinion, among those 4 dudes?
I mean, here's the thing. Quarterback's so tough, right? Quarterback position is tough because there's only one guy in the field. I like Puka's situation. I really do. I just talked about it a second ago. But I think his work ethic and something that McVay, I think, values greatly in his guys is a guy like Puka Nacua that's going to come there and work his butt off. And like I said, you look at the other receivers that are there currently, I don't think of them are too flashy or anything that Puka can't go out there and kind of beat them out in their own spot. So I like his spot. I think he has a chance to have some staying power there in Los Angeles and have a nice, long career with the Rams. But we'll see. I mean, that's, like I said, there's so much that goes into this. hopefully he stays healthy. That's the name of the game for these rookies. There's a saying that you can't make the squad in the training room, right? You've got to be on the field, and so these guys got to make sure they keep their bodies healthy, because if you get hurt as a rookie, it's tough. Typically, you kind of get washed out of the system, and it's tough to get back in. And so you've got to be healthy and hopefully try to make a run.
Okay, among those 4 undrafted free agents, who's most likely to stick, in your opinion, among Chris Brooks to the Dolphins, Caleb Hayes to the Jaguars, D'Angelo Mandel to the Cowboys, and Harris LaChance to the Colts?
Yeah, I mean, I love Harris LaChance's game. I think him being right there along with Freeland, hopefully they'll be able to kind of study with each other and keep each other sharp in the game. Hearing the feedback about D'Lo, I like D'Lo's chances. I mean, the Cowboys looking at their defense and what they like to do, a lot of man on the outside, and that's exactly what that fits into D'Lo's game as well. So, but Caleb Hayes, what a pro day. We talked about his pro day, a month or so ago. He had a fantastic pro day. I think that's why the Jaguars didn't call it. So, for sure. Hopefully he can stick. And then, of course, Chris Brooks. I mean, the guy's a beast. He had a great pro day as well. Can become like a bruiser back and learn to kind of run more north and south and deliver some punishing blows. We'll see how it plays out for him as well.
David Nixon, former BYU and NFL linebacker, is with us on BYU Sports Nation. I almost hate to turn the page to Kody Epps because the NFL draft typically just dominates headlines, at least for a few days. But with the news that Epps has entered the transfer portal, BYU's wide receiver core is now very much in a state of flux and a little bit of scramble mode. What was your reaction to Kody Epps entering the transfer portal on the final day he could do so without having to incur a sit-out-of-season penalty?
Frustration. That was probably the first thing that came to mind. But then quickly my mind just turned to, hey, next guy up. I mean, there's not much you can do about it. That's his decision. He can do whatever he wants. He can move on. And I think BYU, as you guys alluded to earlier in the show, they did all they could with the collective trying to get him taken care of. And obviously it wasn't enough, he felt like, and so he's going to go test the waters. So it is frustrating. I think the fact that BYU, and I'm going back to the draft a little bit, the fact that BYU had 3 drafted players in the top of the 5 rounds, which hasn't been done since 2002. Yeah, I think that's something you can now take to all these other guys that are in the transfer portal that are looking to transfer and say, listen, come to BYU. We'll get you drafted. I mean, we're year in and year out, we're putting guys in the draft. 2001 or 2021 was Dak's year, had 5 guys drafted that year. And so, this is something that BYU is building something. There's some momentum going here. You head into the Big 12, you're going to get more exposure. And so I think that's the recruit now, the pitch to these potential recruits, the guys that are in the transfer portal is come to BYU, we'll get you drafted. Kody Epps left a vacant spot, so here's a chance to come on in and have them, into production. So, I think there's a way to use the draft to kind of play off this Kody Epps and use it as a pitch to these kids that are still looking for a home.
Now, certainly at receiver, it's a big blow because BYU had 3 good ones, they felt like, in Chase Roberts and Keanu Hill and Kody Epps. Cody's out. It's not that BYU doesn't have talent behind him. It's just unproven and young at this point because you got a guy like Devin Downing coming off kind of the gray shirt year last year. He was with Chase Roberts in high school. He was awesome. You got Parker Kingston, who could play into the mix. You got JoJo Phillips from Sierra Canyon. Shout out to Bronny and LeBron.
And Dom Henry from Florida.
You've got some good talent. They just haven't played yet. How many dudes does BYU need to get in the portal that are ready to go in the first year of the Big 12?
Yeah, to your point, that's a tough thing. Is we know what Kody Epps could do, right? And it is totally different from guys, even JUCO guys coming in that have played at the JUCO level. It takes some time for them to get used to the speed of the game at the D1 level. And so, yeah, it's hard because Cody's been there, done that, even though he got injured. And now you have to get other guys to come in and get them caught up to speed and get them some live reps so they get used to the live game speed. So I don't know what the number is. Obviously, they're targeting, I'm guessing probably 3, 4, or 5 guys to bring in. They're looking for the best guys out there. I 100% trust Betsy Satake to make the right move and attract the right guys to come in. But, it's going to be tough to fill those shoes. No doubt, no question about it. I mean, you mentioned, you rattled off some of the receivers. Keep in mind, Isaac Rex is back. BYU's got a good tight end room as well that they've developed some young guys. And so I think they'll be fine. I don't think the sky's falling by any means, but it definitely hurt. There's no question about it. When I heard the news, it was a gut punch and something you don't want to see. And this is the bummer about the transfer portal. But listen, BYU's been the recipient of some great transfers that come in this year in particular. So as you guys allude to, the transfer portal taketh and it giveth. So we'll see what it giveth here in the next couple of days. I would guess maybe the next week or so we'll start to hear some other names that start to fall into place.
All right, Dave, we'll finish with this. How does BYU moving forward navigate the transfer portal with NIL and so much tampering going on? What's the key?
Well, let's not talk to some of the guys at the collective. They're working hard. Those guys are trying to get the money raised, and they're trying to take care of the players. They're working closely with the rest of the administration to make sure that they're on top of their game. As we know, the collective was one of the first ones that was put together across the country, and so BYU is very proactive in this approach. But I also know that they're doing it the right way. There's not tampering. There's nothing of that sort going on, and so they're doing it the right way, which I know can be frustrating because maybe there's other things that aren't going the right way that could be frustrating. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I think BYU's doing like they're doing what they need to do, and I think it will pay dividends. I think like I said, it already has paid dividends. I think BYU will land a couple big names here before it's all said and done.
Great stuff, David. Always nice to talk with you. I'm searching for Justin Timberlake's next concert tour sites. So when I locate that, I'll let you know. We can take the wives and do a whole concert.
Or just us three, like whatever.
We'll take Blaine and Dave too. Why not? Make it
Blaine would be there. I don't know about Dave, but Blaine would be there. Yeah.
David, thanks for the time,
Blaine
man.
would be there singing along.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, he is David Nixon.
All right, thanks, guys.
You got it. It's gonna be May.
There's another transfer from BYU. It's an Olympic sport. I'll tell you after the break.
Ooh.
If you missed any, it just happened. If you missed any interviews, Deep Blue shows or games, you can find them on BYUSN.com or download the BYU TV app to get all the BYU sports content you want.
Along with Jarom's transfer portal news, we'll also discuss which Cougar is already projected as a first-round NFL draft pick in 2024. This is BYU Sports Nation.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
They prefer to be bringing the heat, getting set for success, demonstrating their drive. But when their blood and sweat turns to tears or anything else, we lay the groundwork for BYU's athletes to hit the ground running again, and you as well. Intermountain Healthcare, official medical provider for BYU athletics.
Accidents don't just happen 9 to 5. They happen when you least expect them. The team at Siegfried & Jensen is here for you 24/7. Nights, weekends, every day, every hour. Really here for you. No matter when you call us, you'll speak to a real person and have access to the same expertise and personal attention as always, and get the legal help you need when you need it. Nights, weekends, every day, every hour, 24/7.
Learn more at siegfriedandjensen.com.
The heroes are taking over Saturday mornings on BYU TV. Heroes who are brave, smart, and wield magical powers. Heroes who are good friends, problem solvers, and kind to everyone. Heroes who work together to lift and inspire, to make someone's day. Watch your favorite heroes in action Saturday mornings on BYU TV, and then go be a hero yourself.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. A couple bits of news here to get to. Mix Romanus named an ABCA Honorable Mention All-American. Congratulations to Mix. Frankly, I didn't think the BYU would get anybody. So Mix is a first-team All-Conference guy and an ABCA All-American. And then Daviana Vaca has tweeted about 10 minutes ago that she is going to enter the transfer portal. She has 2 years of eligibility and a grad transfer. Of course, her fiancé Jacob Conover transferred to Arizona State. Wouldn't be shocked if she goes to the Sun Devils. But her twin sister, Laveni, or Lava Vaca,
huge part of
is
BYU
the
Women's
Defensive
Soccer
Player of the Year in the West Coast Conference. Hopefully she's still at BYU. They are twins. They've been connected to the hip for a long time, obviously. So we'll see what happens there. I would love for Lava to stay at BYU. Best of luck to Daviana.
All right. That is your breaking news, midway part of the show. Now it's time to whip it. The Cougar Whip Around presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
Pro Football Focus produced a way too early 2024 mock draft. I think it's perfect. It's right after. It's timed well to me. Has BYU's Kingsley Suamatia going 30th overall to the Bills. Will he be a first-round pick?
I think he will be at worst a first or second round pick. Kingsley is a 5-star. And when you're a 5-star, for those that don't understand how the star systems work, if you are a projected 5-star out of high school, that essentially is saying you are a first-round pick.
We think you can become a first-round pick.
According to Aaron Roderick, Kingsley has been competing and performing like a first-round draft pick. And, so I wouldn't be shocked at all. I think at worst he goes in the second round next year. And BYU's going to have a third consecutive left tackle go in the NFL draft. Speaking of which, BYU's had its last 2 starting quarterbacks, left tackles, and number 1 wide receivers all drafted. That's an amazing statistic, an amazing run. In 2021, it was Zach Wilson, Brady Christensen, and Dax Milne.
I remember those guys.
This year, it was Jaren Hall, Blake Freeland, and Puka Nacua.
Yep.
So will BYU continue that trend and make it 3 in a row?
They could at quarterback and left tackle, but I don't see BYU's number 1 receiver getting drafted. Not next year. Now, could Chase Roberts or Keanu Hill in 2 years get into day 3 of the draft? Perhaps. So maybe that, but not in next year's draft.
Could Kody Epps?
Too soon.
I know. I hate it. He's absolutely an NFL draft prospect.
He's a good player, dude.
I know.
I don't know how BYU got him out of high school. Like when they signed him, I was like, how did BYU get this guy? It's unbelievable. First-team All-American out of high school. Crazy numbers with Bryce Young. It was awesome to have him.
Grateful BYU had him at all.
Just churned up Notre Dame and Arkansas last year.
Yeah.
Softball hosts number 2 UCLA today. Is this a must-win for BYU's NCAA tournament hopes?
BYU's NCAA tournament at-large hopes 100% hinge on beating UCLA today.
Oh, boy.
If they do not beat UCLA today, then it's now you just hold on and hope that LMU loses twice and BYU runs the table in the West Coast Conference.
Will LMU lose a game in the league, you think?
They'll probably lose 1, just like they did last year.
And tie BYU.
But win the tiebreaker.
They have the tiebreaker.
It's probably going to be the same exact scenario as it was last year.
Well, 3 Eastern, we'll be watching on the BYU TV app because this is a huge game.
Like, if they beat UCLA, now they're back on the bubble as an at-large.
You ain't got, what was it, Stanford and UCLA come to town this year?
And Utah.
All ranked. Utah not that hard to get here. But that's awesome. That's great scheduling by Gordon Eakin and the staff.
BYU lost 1-0 to Stanford, lost 6-4 to Utah. This is the last statement opportunity, and what a statement it would be against one of the most unbelievable teams in the entire country.
They have the second longest win streak in the country. What is
20
it?
games.
20?
20 in a row.
Oklahoma, of course, is number 1 and has like a 37 year win streak. Tony Finau won his 4th PGA Tour event, brother Finau, in the last 18 months yesterday at the Mexico Open. Due to his recent success, are we claiming him as a BYU Cougar?
We've always claimed him as a BYU Cougar.
We have always claimed him. This is a silly question.
In fact, we determined it with Kerry Roberts in Studio B not too long ago that Tony Finau, whether he wants to admit it or not, is a BYU guy.
We don't care that he's flirted with that other school. We good?
He comes to the BYU Pro Day and the Men's Golf Day every time they host it for their fundraiser event once every few years or every 3 years.
He's great.
He's always there. He's been around the program.
Nothing not to like about
great ties. Yes, he is, whether he wants to be or not, an honorary BYU.
We do that with Dan Reynolds as well of Imagine Dragons. Let's go.
I wore my Tony Finau jacket last week. I'll claim some karma there. Also, he's an incredible player, one of the best in the world.
Yeah, we don't wear crappy people's jackets. Just good players.
He's 4th in the FedEx Cup standings. 4th overall. It's amazing.
It's legit, man.
Good for Tony, man. I'm really happy for him. Also, he was caddying for his kids like 3 hours after he won.
That's awesome.
Like, it's just, he's a different breed, man.
Yep.
Super cool.
One of us. Actually, he's not. He's much richer.
All right, up next, what was the bigger BYU sports story this weekend? The NFL draft and the 3 guys being picked, free agents, or is it Kody Epps and the vacancy now that BYU is dealing with in the wide receiver room? We'll discuss next on BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
Quick crack. Wash all you want. Don't drive dirty.
4 kids disappeared in these woods 23 years ago, never to be seen again. What is this thing?
Whoa!
Has it made contact?
It chose you for a reason.
Your friends, they vanished.
Men in suits showed up.
Don't you want to know what it is? What's through the light?
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation, live from Studio B. Our question of the day: what qualifies as the bigger BYU story from the weekend? The NFL draft.
Who's
Blake
saying
Freeland,
the draft?
Jaren Hall, Puka Nacua, all getting drafted. Or is it Kody Epps shocking BYU Sports Nation, leaving in the transfer portal on Sunday?
The Kody Epps thing is going to be the answer, because Kody was outspoken about how good of a fit it was. And he even said something to the effect of, I feel like it's my mission to sort of be who I am and help Provo and you know, BYU understand about me. And it was like, yeah, we love you. You're great. So obviously he had to get some 6-figure option from a P5 that, you know, was something that he wanted to take. And listen, not everyone's situation is the same.
Yeah.
And sometimes, hey, your family needs that dough. Or listen, that could really help you, like right away. And maybe it's a, in his mind, better situation. But we thought this was a good situation for him. And he was telling us it was.
Yes.
So that's why it's so disappointing. It's not just that he's leaving. It's that you told us this was good. And now it's not. What happened? The almighty dollar? I get it, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to be disappointed about it.
How will BYU respond? Will they try and scramble and potentially match whatever is being offered to Kody to go elsewhere?
The people I've talked to is that process has already happened and come and gone.
Oh,
yeah.
Gosh. Holy cow.
And at what point, Spence, is that sort of leveraging in that moment too much, meaning a certain amount? Like, what is... All right, no.
Like, we're
not
love
going to
you,
play that
but
game.
we can't continue to go down this road.
And what precedents do you set for your other teammates? Like, if you're Keanu Hill and Chase Roberts and you look over and see that, it's like, well, wait, why do I not have a similar amount? Like, if I'm Keanu Hill, I'm going, hello, I'm right here. I had some similar moments in certain games. Granted, Cody's came against Notre Dame and Arkansas. Keanu's came against like Wyoming and Utah Tech.
Sure.
Which was still good
against Oregon too.
Yes, but I'm talking like his breakout game.
Yeah, sure.
Chase Roberts had the one game against Baylor that was tremendous, right? So it sets a weird precedent. You just kind of have to be careful in that regard.
So here's the thing. Why is it that human nature, and in fact, I sat in a marriage and family course yesterday, taught by a guy named Todd Spencer. He's an Oklahoma State fan, big 12 fan. And he brought up a great point. He's like, there's just this, we naturally like take positive interactions, and they just like you know, we're like, yeah, it's great, it's fantastic, but the negative interaction always like grabs our attention. So he's like, in marriage, typically you need to have like 5 positive interactions to offset 1 negative interaction.
Oh, jeez. That ratio is so high, yeah.
That's so high, right?
I believe it.
But it correlates here. Like, all of these great things happen. Like, the NFL draft, like, oh, it's awesome. And then this 1 negative interaction happens. It's like, wait, what? How dare you?
I also want people to be careful. Like, I've had some really negative responses in my mentions of people using some adjectives that are not okay regarding integrity and like.
Come on.
No. Like, you've never decommitted from anything in your life. Also, if you were offered a certain sum of money to get you out of a certain situation, like,
yeah,
you would never say yes because of your integrity.
There's always a price now.
To me, him saying he loves BYU, and this is a great fit, is not an integrity or honesty conversation.
He still loves BYU.
Yes, and we will still enjoy his career, but obviously it's not with us. He's breaking up with BYU, and that's disappointing.
That hurts.
That hurts. It really does, because he's a good person and he's a good player, and that fit is one that we loved, because he's not a member of the church. He is black. He loves BYU. He was outspoken about how great this was. Good ambassador for the program. It's disappointing to lose a guy like that. It's disappointing.
No question. but yeah, don't challenge his integrity. This is the Wild West.
That's silly.
He's dealing with things that he never thought he'd have to deal with. Like when somebody comes with a huge price tag and says, "Hey, come play for our program and this power conference with this much money," and it's like, "Oh, I didn't think that was possible." But now I'm having to deal with this.
I don't know what matters in his life. I don't know what his family financial situation is.
We don't know the scenario.
I don't know what kind of debt his family might be in or what he needs or values or what opportunities he's looking for. Who am I to judge that piece, right? I can only say what I feel about his game, which is that he's a tremendous receiver. We saw the beginnings of him.
That's what hurts as well.
He did not put up huge numbers the whole season. Like he's not one of the elite receivers in the country, but he's pacing towards something really nice and awesome. And so is Chase Roberts, and so is Keanu Hill, and that trio was very exciting. I don't include Isaac Rex in sort of that conversation because that's the tight ends. The tight ends are a different piece for me. If you're talking pass catchers, sure. But I think, and we'll get to this later in the week, BYU needs not just maybe 1 or 2 receivers in the portal that could be impact guys. I think it's 3+.
Now because Cody's gone?
I don't think you can walk into the Big 12 and be like, we have 3 receivers we trust. Well, what if 2 of those get hurt in the first 4 weeks? We saw it last year where Puka Nacua got hurt in game 1 and Gunnar Romney barely played. You needed a Chase Roberts and a Kody Epps to deliver. Luckily, they did. But BYU doesn't – I don't want in the Big 12 to be like, well, hopefully some of these freshmen or redshirt freshmen are ballers now. I would like them to have another season before they have to do something.
Okay, can we be real just for a second and take the wide –
I thought we had been the whole time.
The wide lens here.
Oh,
all
okay.
BYU fans, the wide lens. BYU just had 3 players drafted into the National Football League.
This should be like a celebratory, awesome day. Instead, we're bummed about Kody Epps leaving.
I know it hurts to lose a wide receiver like Kody Epps, a freshman All-American. We're talking about a freshman All-American honorable mention compared to 3 dudes that have traversed through BYU, have now made it into the NFL, and can go and get paid real money to play at the highest stage.
I get it, Spence. I get it because we're excited about them at the next level, but what we want most is BYU football this fall to be good.
Oh, man.
That's what we want the most, the current team to be good.
Crazy. Okay, our elite voice of the day in response to what was the bigger story. And you mentioned, overwhelmingly, it's been Kody Epps.
Yeah, it should be.
Presented by PAX Healthcare Elevated, again, from @CL_living, says neither. The biggest BYU story is that Lauren Gustin made another rebound.
Well done. That's why it's elite. That's great. Nicely done. Nicely done.
She's back after a rebound.
Now that is some great news, okay? Some positivity on this day of disappointment. Okay, it should be a great day. You're right. But I get it. BYU baseball, it's the road this week. Take on UC San Diego tomorrow night, 9 Eastern on the BYU radio app.
Up next, today's Rise and Shout Out. And you know what? There are a few groups that deserve it.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was a great weekend. It wasn't just about loss. We won more than we lost this weekend. This is BYU Sports
But it's also disappointing.
Come on.
It's also disappointing, Spence.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork sells Ford vehicles including the F-150, the pickup designed for work and play. Tim Daly Ford maintains a large inventory, providing more choices for selecting an F-150 with the power and engineering to carry and tow heavy loads. The F-150's design offers comfort, safety, and a range of options to choose from. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
Does your dream of home ownership feel impossible? At Mountain America, we want to remind you the dream is alive. We are here to craft a personalized mortgage loan based on your needs. You can live your dream. And now, for a limited time, receive a free appraisal. Our one-on-one guidance and quick application process will bring your dream to life. Reach out to a Mountain America mortgage expert today.
Mark?
Some of my favorite moments are hearing from the family room, just a chorus of laughter.
Twas your mother's.
BYU TV has been an escape and a refuge for me. We forgot about random acts. We love that one.
Today we wanted to do something nice for you.
I see that change on him after that show.
It just brightened everybody's day.
I can do this.
I want to live my life in a way that show showed me. That thing is ours. Whoa! No one else can know about it until we figure out what it is. Agreed? Agreed. We're supposed to look out for each other. All this time, I've been searching for us.
It chose you for a reason.
We're in this together.
You're the best friends I've ever had.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
BYU Sports Nation is on demand. Download the free BYU TV and BYU radio apps. You need them to watch baseball and softball here. Let's go. Subscribe, rate, and review to the podcast as well.
Today's Rise and Shoutouts presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics. And it goes to a few groups of winners, Jarom, because there was a lot of winning that happened over the weekend.
7 NFL guys, which is pretty cool from BYU. 3 picks, of course. The most within the first 5 rounds since 2002.
Awesome.
And back-to-back, right, which was exciting. And then 4 undrafted free agents. And then men's golf.
Yes.
Taking down number 6 Pepperdine in the WCC championships. I think we were hoping, like, men's basketball would do what men's golf has done, which is like, okay, we see you, Pepperdine. We saw that you won the national championship a couple years ago. We see you in the top 10. Your boy's going to come in and win the tourney when it matters.
Yes.
And so, you know, that has come and gone, unfortunately, for men's hoops. But in the Big 12, certainly have an opportunity to have some really meaningful wins in the Marriott Center.
Hey, the men's golf team's got some real momentum going. You win the Ping Cougar Classic, then you go and win the West Coast Conference Championships.
Now you're into the NCAAs.
Now you got a real shot to take that momentum, get through regionals, and get to the finals. Let's go, man.
Bruce Brockbank, Todd Miller, and the gang have done a tremendous job with this program over the years.
Yeah, outstanding. All right. Our thanks to today's guest, David Nixon, fellow NSYNC fan.
Yeah, we learned that. Sorry to Dennis Spitter, ran out of time. For sure, Dennis likes NSYNC.
Of course he does.
Yeah, super predictable.
For Jarom Jordan, I'm Spencer Linton. Shout out to Netta Leahy.
Nice!
Spirit of BYU softball, all time.
That was my first gig.
She's awesome.
Calling softball, yeah.